What if I told you that nestled in the heart of the Balkans lies a land where minarets and church steeples share the skyline, where ancient empires have left indelible marks, and where a faith introduced centuries ago continues to shape identities and communities? Welcome to Macedonia, a country whose Islamic heritage is as rich as it is underappreciated. Macedonia, a small yet historically significant country, sits at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Its strategic location has long made it a melting pot of cultures, religions, and empires. Among the many influences that have shaped its identity, Islam stands out, not just as a religion, but as a transformative force deeply woven into the nation's social, political, and cultural fabric. The roots of Islam in Macedonia stretch back to the 14th century, introduced during the expansion of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans didn't simply conquer, they built. They brought with them a comprehensive system of governance that included religious, educational, and welfare institutions. Mosques, madrasas, and charitable endowments became the backbone of community life, serving not only spiritual needs, but also social and civic functions. This introduction of Islam marked the beginning of a unique Islamic heritage in Macedonia that continues to this day. Islamic principles were not merely imposed, they were gradually integrated into the daily rhythm of life through a process of cultural exchange and institutional development. The Ottoman system encouraged the growth of towns centered around mosques, which also included schools, libraries, markets, and public kitchens. As a result, Islam was not confined to private belief, but became a visible, functional part of public life, shaping everything from architecture and education to family structure and ethical norms. Over time, Islamic values influenced the moral fabric and community ethics of Macedonian society. The emphasis on charity, hospitality, learning, and communal responsibility left a lasting imprint. Islamic scholars and poets flourished, contributing to a local Islamic intellectual tradition that merged Ottoman, Arab, and Balkan sensibilities. The religious and cultural identity of Macedonian Muslims developed in parallel with their surroundings, preserving Islamic teachings while also adapting to the region's unique linguistic, cultural, and geographic character. Even after centuries, the historical legacy of Islam in Macedonia remains visible, in its cities, in its cuisine, in its customs, and in the stories passed down through generations. Despite later periods of suppression and marginalization, this legacy remains resilient, echoing through minarets that still rise above town squares, and through communities that still gather in centuries-old mosques built during the time of sultans and scholars. Understanding this historical context is essential to grasping the present-day identity of Islam in Macedonia, an identity forged through both reverence and resistance, continuity and change. When Ottoman forces under Sultan Bayezid I entered Macedonia in 1392, they initiated not just a new political order, but a profound civilizational shift. The Islamic institutions they established laid the foundation for centuries of religious, intellectual, and social development. Mosques became more than houses of prayer. They were centers for learning, planning, and community gatherings. Madrasas educated generations in religious and worldly sciences, while endowments ensured care for the poor and sick. Islamic culture thrived under Ottoman patronage, as evidenced by breathtaking landmarks like the Painted Mosque in Tetovo and the Mustafa Pasha Mosque in Skopje. These masterpieces, adorned with floral motifs and Arabic calligraphy, reflect a time when Islamic art and architecture reached new heights in the Balkans. The Ottoman millet system, which allowed religious minorities to govern themselves, gave Macedonian Muslims a degree of autonomy that preserved their traditions and institutions for centuries. But with the fall of the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century, a new chapter began, one filled with challenges. Macedonia was absorbed into the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and later into Tito's communist Yugoslavia. Under this regime, religious life was heavily suppressed. Islamic institutions were monitored, mosques were closed or repurposed, and public expressions of faith were discouraged. Yet, even in secrecy, the Muslim community endured. Mosques continued to operate behind closed doors, religious knowledge was passed down quietly in homes, and a deep sense of identity was quietly kept alive. This resilience bore fruit after Macedonia declared independence in 1991. A wave of Islamic revival swept across the country. Mosques were renovated or rebuilt, Islamic schools and seminaries reopened, and the Islamic religious community of Macedonia regained its role in organizing religious affairs. This period of revival wasn't just about spirituality, it was a cultural renaissance. Macedonian Muslims, long marginalized, began to assert their identity proudly as part of the nation's broader multicultural fabric. Women played a central role in this revival. Muslim women in Macedonia have long been the custodians of religious memory, balancing household responsibilities with community service. Post-independence, many began organizing around literacy, vocational training, and interfaith outreach. Their contributions in education and healthcare have been pivotal to rebuilding community strength. At the same time, young Muslims today face their own unique struggles. Caught between tradition and globalization, they seek to hold on to their faith while engaging with the modern world. Youth organizations have emerged as vital spaces for learning, activism, and identity building, helping young Muslims stay rooted while moving forward. Macedonia's religious diversity also means that interfaith dialogue is essential. In recent years, Muslim leaders have worked closely with Christian clergy and civic leaders to promote peace and social cohesion. Joint efforts, like charity drives and public service initiatives, have helped bridge gaps and build mutual respect between communities. Politically, Muslims have pushed for fair representation. Parties and candidates representing Muslim interests have campaigned for greater attention to religious freedom, educational reforms, and the protection of minority rights. Though underrepresentation and discrimination persist, these efforts mark a growing political consciousness. Economically, Muslims in Macedonia have made significant contributions through small businesses, agriculture, and increasingly, halal tourism. The emergence of Macedonia as a destination for faith-conscious travelers is a promising development, blending cultural heritage with economic opportunity. The story of Islam in Macedonia is not isolated. It reflects broader themes playing out across Europe and the wider Muslim world. In many ways, Macedonia serves as a microcosm for the challenges and transformations facing Muslim communities in secular, multicultural societies. The tension between tradition and modernity, between national identity and religious identity, and between historical memory and present-day realities, are all encapsulated in the Macedonian experience. These are not just abstract debates, but lived realities for a population that has had to navigate shifting political regimes, cultural pressures, and evolving expectations, all while holding on to a centuries-old faith. In recent decades, as Islam has come under increasing scrutiny in Europe due to political tensions, immigration debates, and the rise of nationalist rhetoric, the quiet perseverance of Macedonian Muslims offers a powerful counter-narrative. Here, Islam is not a foreign import or a recent phenomenon. It is a part of the country's historical and cultural DNA. The ability of Macedonian Muslims to maintain their religious traditions while actively participating in civic life challenges the monolithic portrayals of Islam often found in Western discourse. Moreover, Macedonia's experience speaks to the broader struggle of Muslims across the Balkans and other post-Ottoman societies to reconcile a proud Islamic heritage with the demands of modern nation-states. Whether it's preserving Islamic architecture, maintaining access to religious education, or asserting equal rights in pluralistic societies, the questions being faced in Macedonia are mirrored in places like Bosnia, Albania, and even parts of Western Europe. This broader lens highlights the interconnectedness of Muslim experiences across borders, while also emphasizing the unique adaptations shaped by local histories. Ultimately, the Macedonian case reminds us that coexistence is possible, not just in theory, but in practice. It shows that Islam in Europe does not have to exist in opposition to local identities, but can instead complement and enrich them. The endurance of Islamic life in Macedonia is a testament to the strength of faith, the flexibility of tradition, and the human capacity for coexistence in the face of adversity. As global conversations about religion, identity, and integration continue to evolve, Macedonia's Muslims offer a living example of what it means to belong to multiple worlds at once, rooted in the past, resilient in the present, and hopeful for the future. However, this revival and growing confidence have not been without controversy. Within the Islamic religious community of Macedonia, disputes over leadership, foreign influence, and internal politics have occasionally erupted into public scandals. Questions about funding sources, allegiance to foreign patrons, and the transparency of religious authorities have sparked debates about who truly represents the interests of Macedonian Muslims. Some accuse certain leaders of being too politically aligned, while others fear the importation of sectarian divisions. These controversies highlight the ongoing struggle for authentic, independent leadership, one that prioritizes the needs of local communities over external agendas. Yet despite these challenges, the majority of Muslims in Macedonia remain committed to a path of unity, peaceful coexistence, and constructive engagement. Thanks for watching, and until the next script, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop seeking the deeper stories behind the headlines.